Hi, welcome all of you on platform of YourPD Education, and you are watching the series of my interaction with the researchers, professors, visionaries, industrialists, etc. And today I am going to interact with one of my favorite actually interviewee in whom I'm going to interact, and he's a professor in IIT Roorkee. So we have interacted in past with many researchers and professors, and their views are really very helpful and useful to all of us. They have worked many years in particular field of specialization, and when we discuss with them their views on those particular areas, a lot of content comes out. So that is very enriched actually, and many ideas from them which flow will be helpful to all of you who are looking for getting specialized in particular areas, finding the research problems for you, and also trying to carve out career in academics and research. So I request all of you that you spare some time every week to listen to such researchers, professors, visionaries, and it will be very helpful for the career. So in today's interaction, I'm going to interact with the Professor Inderdeep Singh. He's a professor in IIT Roorkee in Mechanical Engineering Department, and area of his interest are composite materials, manufacturing, polymer, metal matrix composite, natural fiber-based green composites. So overall composite and its applications actually are is the area domain of expertise of Professor Singh. Now, I tell you, other than being professor in mechanical engineering department, Dr. Singh is also holding the position of responsibility as a coordinator of e-learning center and coordinator of NPTEL. NPTEL, as you know, is a source of information where we get a lot of videos and content for preparation. So that is also he's holding one position. So what I interacted, for every interaction I prepare sort of a questionnaire, and I discuss on that line, though there are some kind of deviations. So I asked him his own journey from college to being professor, his research area, and how can a student think of working under his guidance. So how you have to prepare for that. COVID-19 situation, every college is facing, every university is facing. So how IIT Roorkee coped up with that, how they basically took that challenge as and converted into opportunity. And then we saw about education sector mein COVID scenario, e-learning, because he's coordinator of e-learning. He tells about e-learning as a permanent feature now for education sector. Also, I discussed with him degree or diploma certification being offered by IITs online. So that part also I discussed. Then I talked about the NPTEL and its relevance, and also whether they are planning to basically create some kind of business model or earning through such kind of lectures and monetize NPTEL courses. So what industry people come on board of NPTEL? Are there also, because industry always say that students learn in universities which is not required in industry. So can industry people also join on board NPTEL? And how can IITs attract best brain into higher education, something like MS PhD? So these are the interaction points with Dr. Singh. I'm very sure you all will get benefited through this interaction. It is really quite enriched, I will say, and interesting interaction with Dr. Singh. So I request you to watch it so that it will helpful to all of us. Thank you. Welcome, Professor Inderdeep, and I'm really thankful, sir, for your time today, and welcome on channel of YourPD Education.
Thank you, Dr. Vijender. It is nice to have an interaction with you. So we can start the interview.
Okay. Professor Inderdeep, you are a professor in Mechanical Engineering Department, IIT Roorkee. And at the same time, sir, you are also coordinator in two departments, e-learning center and also NPTEL, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So we will be having interaction related to all these three domains, sir. I'll be interacting with you in your capacity as professor of Mechanical Engineering Department, IIT Roorkee. And at the same time, I'll be discussing with you certain aspects of e-learning which in post-COVID scenario has become very, very relevant, and NPTEL also, which is an enriched source of information and learning for students. So I have made some kind of questionnaire, sir, to interact with you today on the basis of your biodata and your details. Normally, my first question is related to the personality. So, sir, we would like to know you about you only. We would like to know about your journey till IIT Roorkee.
Thank you, Dr. Vijender. I am Inderdeep Singh. As you already introduced, I am a professor currently in Department of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering at IIT Roorkee. So I belong to a very small town in Himachal Pradesh, which is Paonta Sahib, which is around 100 kilometers from IIT Roorkee. So I am fortunate by God's grace. I am at the nearest IIT to my hometown, which
Great.
is a dream of most of people who go for higher studies. So I'm able to take care of my old parents at Paonta Sahib as well as our agricultural land at Paonta Sahib, close to Paonta Sahib. So I did my schooling from Paonta Sahib only. There is a old school, Guru Nanak Mission Public School at Paonta Sahib. I did right from class nursery till class 10 plus 2. I was there. Ours was the first batch of 10 plus 2 from our school, because earlier it was till class 10th. Then we went to class 10 plus 1 and 10 plus 2. And thereafter I went to REC Hamirpur, which is now National Institute of Technology Hamirpur, in the year 1994 and graduated in 1998. And thereafter I joined Indian Institute of Technology Delhi for master's degree, and I completed my master's from Department of Mechanical Engineering with specialization in production engineering. And there only I continued my PhD degree under the same supervisor with whom I worked for my master's degree, Professor Naresh Bhatnagar, who is currently a professor and head of Center of Biomedical Engineering at IIT Delhi. So I worked for my PhD with him, and I completed my PhD in 2004 under supervision of Professor Bhatnagar. And thereafter, I joined my first job. I joined in Institute of Technology, which is now Indian Institute of Technology, Banaras Hindu University. And I was there for around a year, and then I shifted to Punjab Engineering College. I was there for a semester. And thereafter, I joined IIT Roorkee as a lecturer in the year 2005 December. And maybe this December, I will be completing 15 years of my journey at IIT Roorkee. So now I think IIT Roorkee is the institute with which I am associated for the longest period of time. So I was with NIT Hamirpur for 4 years, IIT Delhi for 6 years, and but with IIT Roorkee I am for last 15 years, and maybe I may be continuing here till my retirement, as I have no plans to move from IIT Roorkee. So it is like my second home, and it is close to my hometown. So therefore I am dedicated towards working for the technology development at IIT Roorkee. So that
Great,
is
sir.
all about me. Yeah.
It looks like great, sir. And Professor Inderdeep, now my next question to you is related to your, sir, research area and which domain you are working as of now.
Thank you, Dr. Vijender, for asking this very important question, because my area was composite materials. Still, it is composite materials only. But initially, when I was doing my PhD, we worked on synthetic fiber-based composite materials, specifically carbon fiber and glass fiber-based composites. But now we have shifted our attention to natural fiber-based composite materials, keeping in mind the sustainability aspects. Because every World Environment Day, we talk about the wastage in terms of plastics, and the government of India is also thinking that we have to somehow get rid of the plastic. So what we are trying to do now at IIT Roorkee is that in the government's initiative, we are trying to work in the similar lines and trying to find out alternatives for plastic products, as well as we are trying to find out alternatives for the products which are difficult to dispose of at the end of the life. So we are working with polymers which are biopolymers and fibers which are natural fibers, and trying to develop products which are environment friendly. So whatever government it gives the direction, we also work in the similar direction and try to achieve some of the objectives which government lay down for the next 5 to 10 years time. So our current area is towards development of fully biodegradable, sustainable composite materials out of natural resources. And we have all the facilities at IIT Roorkee. With government support, we have been able to create facilities like injection molding, compression molding, extrusion, ultrasonic welding for plastics, hot plate welding of plastics. So we have all the necessary facilities for working in this direction. With some industry support also, we have created some facilities, and we have good facilities in the terms of instrument. We have a very well equipped Institute Instrumentation Center, IIC, which is a central facility and which helps all researchers across all disciplines and all departments. Centrally, these facilities can be utilized. You can book online and make use of the central facilities. So that is currently our research focus, which is in line with the directives as well as the objectives or the policies of Government of India.
Great, sir. Professor Indradeep, IIT Roorkee is a very prestigious institute, and we know there are so many engineering colleges in India from where students graduate in engineering and they aspire to be part of IIT system, and they want to pursue higher education, let's say masters and PhD courses in IITs. Now, I want to ask you, sir, one question very straight. Like, if some student aspires to work under your guidance, let's say a master's or PhD course, then how he can prepare himself, who must be listening to you? And when you shortlist some student as a research scholar under your guidance, what do you see in him? What kind of credential do you see in that particular student?
Yeah, Dr. Vijayendra, that is a very, very relevant question and important for the students who are aspiring to be associated with any of the IITs across India. And especially now, since your question is directed towards IIT Roorkee, so I will be specific to IIT Roorkee. So for master's degree, as all of you know, maybe knowing, and most of the students know, we have a examination called GATE examination.
Right.
So the students have to prepare for the GATE examination, and based on the scores of the GATE examination at master's level, our department has decided that we will not go for any interview process, because within IIT Roorkee we have different mechanisms of selection. In some of the interdisciplinary departments, there may be an interview in which maybe a specific weightage, maybe 60 to 70% will be given to the GATE score, and remaining 30 to 40% can be given to the interview. Whereas for Department of Mechanical Engineering, we directly take based on the GATE score. So there is no preparation, additional preparation that the student need to carry out, because he has to appear in the GATE score, and based on the GATE score, he or she can very easily get an admission if the score is high enough, good enough to get into IIT. So that is the master's level admission process for our department. Now coming on to the PhD level selection process. In PhD level, every year 2 times we call the applications, and this now also there is another scheme in which the candidate can apply any time round the year, but he has to then bring his own fellowship, because there are different fellowship programs of Government of India. So if the student has already been selected under any of these fellowship programs, he can directly apply to IIT Roorkee, to our department, anytime round the year. So his interview will be done on individual basis. So if we get 2-3 such applications, we may wait for the next round of interviews, or if there is still time, 3 to 4 months time is there, so interview the department research committee can even interview a single candidate also. That provision is there. But if the student wants to come under the MHRD fellowship scheme, in that we have 2 times we advertise all across the institute. There is a combined advertisement for PhD applications, and the students, once they apply, they are shortlisted based on their GATE score. Obviously there is some criteria based on their bachelor's and master's marks also, so that index is calculated. Based on the index, maybe the GATE qualification is one of the mandatory requirements. So even if you have very good score in bachelor's and master's degree, you may not be shortlisted since you have not qualified GATE. So GATE qualification is one of the cutoffs. So maybe suppose we get 1000 applications, if there are 100 who have not qualified GATE, they will outrightly may not be considered, depending upon the number of seats we have, because we have to have a screening criteria. So we have different screening criteria. One can be the GATE qualification, other is the index is created based on the bachelor's marks, master's marks in the masters, and then the GATE score. And based on the index, we call students for a written test in our department. And in the written test, we, for the last 3-4 years, I have the idea that we make 3 different question papers. So one is related to P&I, production and industrial systems, and another one is related to design. Third one is related to thermal. So the student can prepare if he is interested to do PhD in any one of these. So he can come, we ask his choice, what is the question that you want to, question paper in which you want to appear. So suppose he identifies himself with design. So he will appear in the design question paper.
Right.
And if somebody is from P&I, he will appear in the P&I question paper. So through that, we do the next level of scrutiny. And finally, the selected candidates maybe 1:5 or 1:6 ratio. If suppose we have 7 seats in production engineering, so we may call maybe 35 to 42 candidates for interview. So that with that final scrutiny we do on the basis of the written test. And finally, these students will appear in the interview. Now your question is very, very relevant, that how a individual faculty will decide whom he or she wants to supervise.
Right.
So for that, normally we see in which area the student has done his master's degree, what are the marks, from where he is coming, like what is his pedigree, from where did he complete or she complete his bachelor's degree, from where the MTech degree was completed, what was the kind of work the student has done at the master's level. So all those things we keep in mind while we do the final selection. Obviously, then based on that, there are questions and the complete section, maybe for production and industrial section, suppose we are 14 faculty members. So maybe almost everybody will be present in the interview. So there will be questions from all of the faculty members, and based on the common judgment, everybody will give their own marks, and then the marks are compiled, and finally the merit list is prepared. So the students have to prepare well for the interview, and normally the focus is that what they have done during their master's degree. So maybe as a general guideline or principle, the interview normally starts with the first question, that like we started today, you asked me to tell something about myself, so we also start with the same question. And then finally we normally go, if there is nothing special to ask, then normally it starts with what was your master's thesis. So from the master's thesis, it generally starts, and then different faculty members will see that how much in-depth work the student has done. And so suppose somebody has done teaching after doing MTech for 1 year or 2 years, then the next question can be that what type of courses you were teaching in your college from where you are coming for the PhD degree. So that can be a very rudimentary or very elementary second question. Then maybe we can suppose somebody is coming from casting domain, so the chairman of the board will refer that candidate to the professor who's expert in casting at IIT Roorkee. So that professor will then interact one by one, then somebody else may also ask the question. So if the student has published good papers, at least one good paper from his master's work, and he has done good work at the master's level, he can very easily, after getting scrutinized through the written test, stands a good chance of getting selected. It means paper publication always carries a weight, that the student knows how to conduct the research, he is good at technical writing. And but for that point, I would like to emphasize another important thing, that paper publication also is something very tricky, that sometimes there are different types of journals which are coming, so you may be asked to pay some amount of money and then you get it published. So paper publication, if you are coming for an interview to IIT, then the publication should be in good journal which must have an impact factor, and it must be from, it is listed in SCI, that is Science Citation Index, and it is supposed in the Q1 or Q2 category as per the Clarivate Analytics. So there are different parameters on which the journal will be gauged. So sometimes students feel that I have 2 papers, I have not been selected, but then those papers must also be of very good quality, very high impact factor, or they may be maybe Q1, Q2 rated in their respective fields. So therefore, the students who want to prepare for a PhD at IIT Roorkee, they must always focus on their master's thesis, prepare well in their domain. Suppose somebody wants to come, suppose as you asked specifically about me, so I am in the production and industrial systems engineering, so I am from P&I group. So for P&I, he has to prepare for the written test related to P&I. And in the interview, I have already told as answer to your second question that I am working in the area of biodegradable polymer composite materials. So if he is interested to work in composite materials, then he can prepare accordingly. And if he or she has done some work at master's level in this area, then obviously he or she stands a better chance of getting selected for a PhD program at IIT. Okay, so that's all I can say. This is a very, very general guideline. It may not be specific to any specific person, but generally these are the things that we look for in a good PhD candidate who can join IIT Roorkee for his or her PhD work.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Professor Indradeep. Very detailed description you have given. Sir, I want to ask one related query here from you.
for the last couple of years now, IIT system has permitted even BTech student to apply directly for PhD. Your larger description was related to MTech students getting into PhD. I want to ask you, sir, when a MTech student or a BTech student appears for PhD interview, what are the different expectations from the professor side for these students? I mean, a BTech student, say, what expectations do you have? And from MTech, though, you have already told, like the research papers which you mentioned and all, they may not be required from BTech students. And what do you see in the BTech student who is very clear from the beginning that I want to go for PhD course? So what is this from your side?
So this is a very, very relevant question. Right now, there is a lot of focus on attracting very bright students from good NIRF ranked institutes directly into the PhD program. So that is a very relevant question. So obviously, if somebody is directly coming after a BTech program into a PhD program, it is not expected that he or she may have written some good research articles. But obviously, there are some exceptions in BTech level. Also, we have seen even at IIT Roorkee, I have my personal experience that there are many good students who have written research articles with me even at the BTech level. Right. But obviously, once we are getting students from other good institutes into IIT Roorkee, it is not expected that they may have written very good research articles. But then normally the cutoff is very high. Maybe the CGPA cutoff is high. So only very, very bright students who are really motivated to do research will only apply for this PhD fellowship under the direct scheme. So direct PhD for bachelor's student. So in that case, obviously their academic credentials are well established because they're already among the toppers in their respective institute. And secondly, then we see that what is the motivation for this student to come for a PhD program. So motivation level is another important point. What are his or her future plans? What they want to do after PhD? So for that, they must come prepared. These will be the very general questions. And plus, maybe we ask that what is the area in which you want to work. Now, suppose somebody is coming from BTech in production and industrial systems engineering, and he or she says, I want to work in supply chain management area. Then we may ask her that what is your preparedness? What type of topics you have studied in supply chain management? What do you understand from supply chain management? What are the latest trends in supply chain management? So whatever topic the student will highlight that I am really interested to work in this area. So his or her depth of knowledge in that particular domain will be judged by the panel. But normally, since the last 5 or 7 years, I have seen that there are not many candidates who are really motivated, who are from good institutes at undergraduate level, maybe from good NITs, and they are coming directly for PhD. Last year, we got, I think, incidentally, that girl is working with me. She is a topper, one of the toppers from NIT Jalandhar, and then she worked for an organization for 1 year, multinational company in India only, and then she decided to come for PhD. So there are cases, but the numbers are very, very low. So and then if the numbers are low, we need not do a lot of scrutiny, because we know that if the person, boy or a girl, is coming for direct PhD under the direct entry scheme after BTech, obviously the student may be motivated. And when your CGPA levels are high, it means student is already having 2-3 options. So leaving other options, if the student is coming for PhD, normally it is a tendency that we try to promote that, okay, this student really is interested in PhD, so he or she may be given an opportunity. And I have, this is my experience, that the students whom we have selected out directly after BTech are also doing well as comparable to the students who come after MTech degree. So they are not lagging behind in any form. And even I must share with you, there is a Pradhan Mantri Research Fellowships program also, in which we are having a very high, but it is highly competitive. It is highly competitive, but then the stipend is as good as the salary of assistant professor. So that also is highly competitive scheme for which students can aim for even directly after PhD, directly after BTech, they can apply. So that is also one good scheme in which students can take advantage.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Professor Nidhi, there are three courses of higher education in IITs: MTech, MS, and PhD. Normally, students go after BTech. Now, there is a very large misconception or misunderstanding among students related to the difference between MS and MTech courses. So, can you please, sir, explain us broadly the main difference between MTech course and MS course? And this MS course in some of the institutes like IIT Bombay and IIC Bangalore, it is called MTech RA. So, what is the difference between MTech and MS course, sir? I want to ask you that.
Yeah. So normally in MTech and MS, we see there are two broad components of learning. So, or maybe of upgradation of your knowledge during the program. So it both are 2 years program as far as my knowledge goes. So in MS, the focus primarily is on research. So it is focused more on research and less on the credits earned through courses. So maybe in a normal or a typical MTech program, maybe for the first 1 year, 2 semesters, you will be earning most of your credits through the coursework, and in the second year you will be doing a project. Whereas in MS research, it may so happen that you are only earning credits through courses in the first 6 months or first semester, and in the remaining 3 semesters you are more focused on your research work. So the credits allocation may be different. For MS research, more credits will be research based, in which you have to do projects, maybe a minor project followed by a major project, and that or a dissertation work. So your more focus is on your research, whereas in MTech it is a combination of two. 50% credits are earned by your coursework, and the 50% credits more majorly are earned by the dissertation work. So I think that is the major difference between the two. But
Okay.
if you ask me on a personal basis, I will say that if somebody is really interested to conduct research or do PhD, then MS program will be more relevant, because during MS itself, the student will learn many tools and techniques of conducting research. So therefore, these techniques will be helpful to him or her during the PhD program.
Great, sir.
So if the student is really interested, if he or she, because normally we have seen, yesterday night I was just listening to one address by the CEO of Toyota to graduating students of a particular college. So one of the sentences that I remember is that he said that I was lucky and fortunate that I could decide what I want to do in my life. So normally, if a student decides right after BTech what I want to do, then maybe that may be helpful in the longer run. So
Very
therefore, that was the thing that yesterday night I was just scrolling around one of the WhatsApp groups, and I heard this important line by the CEO of the Toyota, who is the family in the family only. So that is one thing I wish to say, that if the student decides after BTech that I am interested in PhD and direct
That is
PhD, he is not able to join for a MS program
MS
and
course.
then go to the PhD.
So
That
after MS, it is a natural for him to get into the PhD courses and
yes,
all.
he will stand a better chance as
Chance.
compared to one-to-one by a MTech program. So if there is
That's
MTech and a MS, maybe the professors may give weightage more to the student
MS
rather than
student.
MS.
Great, sir. Professor Indradeep, now I come to another part of sir interaction, and that is I think related to your being coordinator of e-learning center of IIT Roorkee. Sir, we know that our country is going through, not our country but entire globe, entire world is going through the pandemic situation of COVID-19. So this was something which was extraordinary new situation for everyone, and everyone has tried to adapt to the new situations. So I want to ask you, sir, how the technology part, since we people deal with the technology, so how technology helped to adapt to the challenge which was posed by COVID-19, especially to the education sector. So role of technology, education sector in the COVID.
Yeah, that is a very, very important question, because if you see, or you may have also observed this, that as soon as COVID-19 happened, especially at IIT Roorkee, maybe in the third week of March or fourth week of March, I think there was a situation of a lockdown. And
Right.
especially at IIT Roorkee, our students, we had our midterm exams in the first week of March.
Right,
And
sir.
thereafter it was followed by the holy break, midterm
Right,
break.
sir.
So
Right, sir.
most of the students went home, and
Okay.
unfortunately they could not come back to campus because of the lockdown situation and because of the pandemic.
Right, sir.
So in the last week of March only, our director, Professor Ajit Chaturvedi, he took a conscious decision that we have to now somehow overcome this situation, and we have to complete the semester as per our normal schedule. So that was the resolve at the highest level of decision making at IIT Roorkee.
Right.
And since I was the coordinator of e-learning center, I was involved in almost all meetings that took place, that how to complete the semester now in the e-learning mode or
Right,
the
sir.
online learning mode. So the main thing was that we were fortunate, as you said, the role of technology. So most of our faculty members were like they were hands-on with technology. As you know, you will be, I think, talking about NPTEL also. So
Yes,
we
sir.
had around 30% or 20 to 30% faculty members who had already recorded their lectures on NPTEL. So that resource came handy. So that is
Okay.
also the technological intervention which helped us to cope up with this situation, because most of the professors had their online content available with them. So that was one thing. Second thing was the role of information technology and the internet and the connectivity all across the country. We did not find, yes, there were challenges, there are challenges. There were few students who could not get connected online
Right, sir.
because of the connectivity issues, but then maybe we were able to roll out different strategies for getting in touch with these students, either through mobile WhatsApp groups were created, or emails were sent. There was a group ID created for the complete class. The professor can send the lecture or PPT file to the student. That was also through the internet. So since we were using internet, information technology was well developed. The hardware part was also, everyone was having a laptop or a desktop. Not even laptop and a desktop was having a smartphone. So the students were able to cope up, the professors were able to cope up, and by the first or second week of April, we were able to roll out a complete online teaching learning engagement at IIT Roorkee. And
Great.
we were able, I think, I am very happy to share with you that under the dynamic leadership of our director, we were able to complete the semester as per the schedule. It got delayed by maybe 15 days to 3 weeks, but still we were able to complete the semester with all aspects related to the midterm evaluations. We could complete before Holi, because
Great,
after
sir.
that there was a break. But after that, the teaching learning process continued, and we were able to close the semester right on target. And now our autumn semester is also in full swing. Lectures are being organized on regular basis. We are using two major platforms. Otherwise, faculty is free to use any platform. We are using WebEx and MS Teams, which is a licensed version, is available for our faculty member. Individual IDs have been created, group IDs have been created, and we have another platform Moodle also available. So our faculty members are now engaging regularly live. So there can be two mechanisms of engagement. So you can send the content and students can just go through that content, but we are now focusing on live, that the professors have to be live with the students 3 times in a week, and all lectures mostly are now being conducted in the live mode. So therefore, the technology in terms of both hardware, software, and the information in terms of internet, we were able to harness and leverage these technologies for adapting to this global pandemic. So therefore, I see that the technology played a big role in helping us to tide over this difficult situation. And right now, our students are also, the feedback is good. The faculty also, initially there were some teething troubles, there were some hassles where you have to adapt to the technology. But then I personally conducted two workshops for using how to use WebEx for our faculty members, and the faculty members had few questions which were addressed. We made a technical support team at e-learning center to help our faculty members to adapt to, or to handhold our faculty members in adapting to the online mode of teaching. So we had a multi-pronged approach in sorting out the issues related to online learning and teaching. And now we are very comfortable situation. All the classes are being conducted, and we are now able to manage the things properly, and we are hopeful that this semester also we will be able to complete as per the schedule without any delay. So
Great.
we are as on we are right on target, and I don't see that we will face any problem in completing this semester as also as per our plan. So
Great.
technology definitely has helped us, and new technologies are also coming up to solve whatever problems are remaining. For example, one of the challenge is the online assessment, how to assess the students online. So in that the domain also, the research work is going on. There are few platforms which are supporting online assessment also. So we are also using these platforms. Faculty is free to use any platform for online assessment. So things are now looking good, and we were able to see the difficult times only with the help of the technology. If these
Technology.
technological solutions would not have been there, it would
Yes.
have been extremely difficult
Difficult.
to cope up with this situation.
Very true. Very true.
This is only technology which only helps.
Which, yeah. Professor Inder, I would like to club next two questions because they are related, sir. And First, my part of the question is like post COVID, we are sure that this pandemic will be over soon and the situation will be normalized. So, in the post COVID situation, how do we see the education sector? Do we see that the whatever learning we had, e-learning we had during this COVID situation, that will become the permanent feature of the education system now? Because as you said, you could adapt very fast, and there were many things like if there was challenge there was opportunity also, and you could adapt to that. So my question is, once this entire situation, COVID situation, is over, so do we see that some kind of permanent features in our educational deliveries which will be the part of this entire process now?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vijender. This is a very relevant question. So, how I see this is that there are three broader domains in the learning process. There
Right.
is skilling, reskilling, and upskilling.
Okay.
So, in skilling, normally we can say it is one-to-one engagement between the tutor and the student. You are trying to develop some knowledge, skill among the learners. But then maybe there are different people who are still who are already working, they are professionally employed, but they want to reskill them with some additional information. And then there is upskilling. I joined an organization with a bachelor's degree, but I want to upskill myself for a master's degree, or
Right.
I want to upskill myself with some additional knowledge through some certificate programs. So there are number of private e-learning partners which are there in the market now, which have come up, which were already there, and which have now come up during this COVID-19 situation also. So what I personally believe is that for the conventional learning process, the normal way of teaching will continue. The universities and schools, that is the best method, because even online learning has got certain merits, but there are few things which you cannot match. The kind of experience that a professor brings into the classroom, that may not be possible in the online teaching mode.
That's true.
Plus the overall development of the child or a student who joins a college or a university takes place in different modes. So one-to-one interaction, you learn so many things in the hostel, you develop good friendships, you
Yes.
learn man management also. So
Right.
all those things you learn. So learning is not only the 3 or 4 hours of online engagement that we can have over the computers. So
Very true.
learning is a 24 into 7 process. You learn in the night when you are moving with your friends, or for a night, for an evening walk. Even in the mess, you are discussing so many things. So your
That's true.
personality development takes place. So
Right.
all this is a complete package. So that package cannot be duplicated by the online learning. So online learning can only match up to only that content which you deliver only in the class. So
Right.
it can duplicate 5 to 6 hours of your 24 hours, but it cannot duplicate the 24 into 7 learning experience that the brick and mortar type of universities can provide. So therefore, I see that yes, this 6 hours of engagement, yes, that can be slight more adaptability will be there. Like IIT Roorkee has allowed all its students who are undergraduate level can take 8 credits from NPTEL. Similarly, at master's level, we have allowed students to take 4 credits from NPTEL courses. So there will be blended. Some part maybe 10 credits, 20 credits you can do online. Rest you have to do in the university normal courses. So that kind of blended learning may be there in the future. It will definitely be there. It will further increase, but
Okay.
it is not a complete substitute of the
Yes. Yes.
physical engagement that a professor and students have in the normal classroom. So it
Okay.
is going to stay. I totally agree with what you said, that it is going to stay. I totally agree, yes, it is going to stay, but it may not completely duplicate physical teaching.
So replacement cannot be there. Yes, supplementary some certain things we can get it. So, Professor Indrajit, my next question to you is, sir, like there are some educational institutes of higher learning which provide some kind of degrees or certification through online mode. So, I want to ask you, what is your opinion about such certifications or such degrees provided online, especially by institutes of higher learning? So, what is your view on that?
Yeah, that is a very, very relevant question. If you talk about, I will take the specific examples. Your question is general
Yeah.
institutes of higher learning, but since
Right,
I
sir.
am from IIT, so maybe I can talk about the IIT system, and another well-established system in India is of the Indian Institutes of Management.
Right.
So IIMs, even Indian School of Business, IITs, almost all the institutes of higher learning are now engaging with e-learning partners to leverage the best possible expertise which is available within the institute, and then you bring the industrial expertise from the e-learning partner, and then jointly you can offer some certificate programs. So right now the degree program, as far as my knowledge goes, IIT Madras has started one online degree program which is a BSc degree,
Okay.
and that is also in the broad domain of computer science. So that is one good initiative by IIT Madras, and there also the courses will be a basket of courses from the NPTEL courses which are already available. So
Okay.
though that is one program that is, I think students are appreciating it, that they will be able to get a IIT degree in the online mode. But then we have to test the waters, that what is the kind of knowledge that the students will develop over these 3 years period of time. So it requires some maybe experimentation. So this is a very, very good positive, and what I feel will be a successful, since I'm associated with NPTEL also, I am a member of the PIC. So it is a very, very good experiment, and we are very, very positive and optimistic that it will be successful. Even at IIT Roorkee, we have also started few certificate programs with different e-learning partners which are running successfully. So the students are happy to get a IIT certificate through with the e-learning partner. So as I already mentioned as an answer to the previous question, that upskilling and reskilling is very important. So these programs or certificate programs will primarily be for upskilling and reskilling, may not be a substitute for the normal classroom type of programs, that those may not find many takers, because already we are teaching that course to our BTech student in the class, and similar course may be available on NPTEL. So why would somebody like to pay and then learn that program? So
That's true.
these courses will be successful if they are specialized, they are focused, they are offered by IIT faculty in collaboration with industry, and then maybe the people who are already working, who have some potential, or they can spend money to upskill themselves. For them, these courses will really be in demand, and we are seeing that there is a lot of trend about these type of courses where professionals are enrolling themselves for upgrading their skills. So I
That's good.
think yes, these courses are going to stay.
Yes. Okay, Professor Indrajit, now I come to sir, my third domain of interaction with you as your coordinator of NPTEL, and we know that NPTEL is a very big source of knowledge, and it was started with the objective to impart quality education to all the students who are may not be that lucky to be part of IIT system, but the professors of IITs are taking the classes and they have very good their content on NPTEL. So my next question to you is related to that only, sir. And this is what are the recent updates in NPTEL courses and what is their relevance in the learning today, especially after post COVID, after this COVID pandemic was there and everything came to the online learning mode. So what is the relevance of NPTEL and what is the dynamic things which are happening in NPTEL now?
Yes, this is a very, very relevant point. I'll answer it in two stages. So stage one is that when COVID-19 happened, how NPTEL helped
Yes,
faculty members to adapt. So
yes,
since I am also taking, I have my courses on NPTEL.
yes,
So I was taking a course on operations management,
yes,
and the COVID-19 happened. So all my courses were already available on YouTube, or
right, sir.
the lectures were available on YouTube.
Right,
So
sir.
I could easily adapt, because I used to share the link of the YouTube lecture with my students on the group ID, and they were able to maybe stream that lecture live on their smartphone directly. And maybe we used to have 1 or 2 sessions in the week where we can interact and I can answer their doubts. Although at in a YouTube, when we are, or in NPTEL when we are recording, our target is to reach out to all the students across the country, not only in the country, across the world, who are ready or who are interested to learn that course. So courses are, if you have already may have seen, courses are self-explanatory. So most
Yes,
of the time things are explained with examples,
right, sir.
and we keep on upgrading with some assignment questions. So it is a good learning experience. So I was able to adapt as a course developer
Right.
or a subject matter expert. Normally we call a professor who develops a course on NPTEL as SME, a subject matter expert.
Okay.
But that is not the only thing. IITs may be 23 in number, but there are so many engineering institutes in the country. So we got emails from large number of institutes that, sir, we are teaching this course on operations management, so can we use your content? So then I took up this issue with our national coordinator at IIT Madras, Professor Andrew Thangraj, and he said this content is for the general public. Anybody who wants to use it, he can use it for whatever purpose. It should not be a commercial purpose. If they want to use it for teaching in the classroom, they have the choice. They can play your videos. No, we have no objection to that.
Okay.
So number of institutes used this content during the COVID-19 to complete their sessions, because all at IIT Roorkee we have a fully equipped, very well state of the art studios with us, but all institutes across the country may not be having those kind of facilities, so they are not able to develop the content just as quickly as COVID-19 happened. So they directly then switched over to the online mode. The teachers may have been asked to identify the relevant content which is free of cost available on the internet, and then this content which was available was used by almost all engineering institutes as a adaptation measure during the COVID-19, early part of the COVID-19. Then maybe slowly all these learning management systems came, or learning management platforms came into being. Faculty started to engage with the students. But in the very beginning of the COVID-19, especially in the month of April and May, we received a lot of mails in which different faculty members from the engineering institutes used the NPTEL content for reaching out to their students. So
Okay.
that is the first part, that how NPTEL content helped the faculty members as well as the students. The second part is the new things that we are trying to introduce. So the latest is the domain certification which we have started. So in a domain, suppose the student is doing a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, he can get a domain certification in, suppose, product design and development. So for product design and development, two baskets have been created. Basket one is for core courses and basket two is for elective courses. So in basket one, he is supposed to do, suppose, two courses. Choice is given for four courses. Out of four, he has to do any two of his or her choice. And within the elective also, out of four, he has to do any two. So total, he has to complete 50 to 60 hours of learning. Then he can get a domain certification in which it will be written that in the certificate, it will be written that Mr. So and so has completed a domain certification on this topic in the broader area of mechanical engineering. So that is one thing, because normally the students used to take courses at NPTEL randomly. So they were not focused on one particular domain. So now this will help them. Suppose somebody is interested in computational fluid dynamics, CFD. So he can only work in that fluid mechanics domain and increase or improve his knowledge in that specific learning outcome. Similarly, if somebody is interested in product design and development, can do all four courses related to product design and development, and then the student gets a certificate relevant to PDD. So therefore, this is one more thing. Then there are star performers also. We are now coming up with any student who scores highest marks or among the toppers, the name and picture of that learner is displayed. So there are new things. We are tying up with the industry also, so that we can offer few courses. Even we are trying to develop some courses which are soft skills courses, because we have seen, it is our experience at NPTEL, that students are good at technical level, but their communication skills need improvement. So we are now tying up, and we are trying to come up with communication level courses also. We are trying to develop soft skill courses where the students can make use of these courses and improve not only their technical skills from our NPTEL courses, but also improve their soft skills also. So there are, every now and then we are trying to come up to meet the challenge of, and I am very happy to share that we are approximately offering 400 courses per semester. So that is quite a number. And normally at IIT in physical mode also, we offer around 400 to 450 courses in any IIT. So we are now kind of offering similar type of courses across all disciplines and domains that any IIT is offering. So every semester, the 2 times there are exams. So students have got good opportunity to make use of the resources which are freely available. Maybe there is a nominal examination fee that you have to pay, but otherwise, if you are not really interested for certification, you are only interested for learning, the content is free. free of cost for the students, so
Okay.
that they can always make use of.
Professor Indradeep, I would like to ask you a related questions only, sir, to the NPTEL. You just mentioned that it is a huge content on NPTEL. Sometimes it tends to confuse also students. Like, sir, I have seen your videos also on production engineering, and I've seen production engineering videos of so many other professors also. Now, think of a student who wants to prepare, let us say, a subject on NPTEL, but then there are so many professors teaching on that particular subject. Sir, how to basically decide, how a student can decide which lecture he is to listen, and how it is to be done? Because when there is a lot of information flow, information explosion is there, then the next challenge comes is which information, which pertinent or which relevant thing we should pick it up, and how, what should be the criteria for that? So it is, I beg your pardon, but it is like this, that there are 10 books of the same subject. How a student will decide which one to pick up, or he should pick up all?
Yeah, so this is a very, very relevant question, and we have taken a very conscious decision in this regard, that on any topic we are not promoting more than two professors who will have a similar type of courses.
Great.
For example, at NPTEL, the normal process of development of new courses is that every IIT will seek proposals from the faculty members. Then at local level, there will be a scrutiny of the proposal. There are different criteria to decide which proposals we are going to submit.
Right.
Then at the national level, at the national coordinator for NPTEL is IIT Madras, and at IIT Madras, all these from all IITs and Indian Institute of Science, all courses are compiled, and then there are core working groups of each section. For example, mechanical engineering, there is a core group of faculty members who will decide that what content is already available on NPTEL and what content we need to develop. So therefore, we have taken a conscious decision that there will be no more than two courses on the same topic. So two courses, why we have kept? Because now we are also working in the semester mode. So in autumn semester, suppose Inderdeep Singh is teaching operations management. In spring semester, there can be another professor from IIT Madras or IIT Bombay who will be teaching operations management. But you are right. But when this content comes to YouTube, at YouTube, my lectures will also be there, and other professor from IIT Bombay, his lectures will also be there. So at that point of time, the student must, in order to ensure the continuity, he should follow only one. So suppose he has identified Inderdeep Singh, so he should follow right from lecture 1 to lecture 60 of Inderdeep Singh. And if he is following another professor, then he should follow all.
Follow that only.
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise,
So
there will be confusion. Yeah, that's true. Professor Indradeep, my next question to you is related to NPTEL course which is uploaded. We see that there are professors who are teaching on NPTEL and they are very capable in their domain. But I want to ask you, is there any scope of industry people, maybe the alumni of IIT who are now working in industries, to come out and teach the industry relevant course on NPTEL, so that it helps the students also to learn those aspects which otherwise may not be the part of their curriculum? So is that provision there already, or do we think of having such provision in future?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vijendra. This is a very, very, you can say, burning question, because this question we are getting from other faculty members also, who are, suppose we go for NPTEL awareness program to any other institute, and there this is a very, very, you can say, important question which faculty members feel that, sir, I am also teaching this course for last 5 years and my student feedback is very, very good. So can I develop this course on the NPTEL platform? So I must share with you that now the NPTEL is one of the coordinators of the bigger umbrella, which is SWAYAM.
Okay.
So under SWAYAM, there are 9 different national coordinators.
Okay.
So NPTEL is one of them. So any student or any faculty member who has an idea which is not related directly to engineering, he or she can directly record through, there is a consortium of educational communication, CEC, which has the educational multimedia research centers, EMRCs, all across the country. These are 21 in number as far as my knowledge goes. So these are in different universities. For example, in Uttarakhand, we have it within our campus at IIT Roorkee. They also have a ValueCube studio within IIT. So that is Educational Multimedia Research Center. Similarly, in Punjab, I know it is in Punjabi University, Patiala. So if any faculty member of Punjab University or Punjab University or any other university wants to record some topic, which is relevant to the learners, he or she can directly contact EMRC and do the recording in their studio, and that will be available on the Swayam platform. So it
Okay.
is the NPTEL is not only the platform through which you can reach out to the masses. There are
Okay.
other platforms also available.
Okay.
But coming to your specific question about IIT and industry interface, so NPTEL at national level has already tied up with different industries, and the details are available on NPTEL website. So we are already offering courses in collaboration with different industries, where there are few faculty members from industry, or faculty means few experts from industry and few faculty from IIT. But normally we encourage that someone from any of the IITs, at least one faculty member from IIT must be there to steer that course, so that we are able to have someone from our family who takes care of the complete program. So that is one thing. Directly giving ownership of a program to any industry or any faculty outside IIT right now, I don't feel that there is any you can say situation where we have done that. But yes, in collaboration with IIT faculty, in collaboration with the industry expert, or in collaboration with any other faculty from either NIT or from other good university, that collaborative type of courses are already available. And I have, in my personal knowledge also, there is a course on product design and manufacturing, which is offered by Professor J. Ramkumar from IIT Kanpur and another professor from NIT Jalandhar. So they are jointly offering that course. So it is the possibility is there that you have one faculty from IIT, another faculty can even be from abroad. He can be from some university outside India also. So jointly they can offer the program. But one condition normally that we try to follow is that someone from any of these IIT, 7 IITs and Indian Institute of Science, he or she may be there as a part of the team.
Great.
So that is the I think the broad
Perspective of this.
broad perspective, general perspective in
Right, sir.
collaboration.
Professor Nidhi, my last question I have come to, and my last question to you, sir, is like any educational institute tends to attract the best brains in higher education domains like MS, MTech, PhDs, and all. So, what should IITs do? This is a general question to attract the best brain into these courses, and maybe to the extent that brain drain could also be prevented. And those students who are aspiring to go to the top universities abroad, how can IIT system attract this brain and provide them higher education in the nation itself, in the country itself?
Yeah, this is a very relevant question. So there are, I think I will answer it from two or three broader perspectives. Now, as an institute or as a country, what we will gain if we get the best students in IITs. So that is one thing. And second is what the student aspires or the graduate aspires when he or she has just graduated. So we have to make a good match, or we have to do a synergy, develop a synergy between these two objectives, that what are our national objectives or what are our thoughts related to how the research should be carried out in our country, and what the student aspires for once he or she graduates. Now if I talk from the student point of view, normally we see that students who graduate, they feel that they should be become independent financially also after graduating. So we have to support them in a way that they need not depend on their parents for their day-to-day expenses. So that is one thing, and I think PMRF is a very good step in that direction, which is as good as a good job. So you can get good financial returns also, you can get a good fellowship. At the same time, you can pursue your dream of doing research also. So we have to bring these students into IIT fold or any other good institute with a lucrative
scholarships or something,
scholarship and fellowships, so that the students feel that yes, they will be able to manage with this fellowship and they will be able to take care of themselves reasonably well, and will able also be able to complete the PhD. So from students point of view, I think that is the only thing. And normally we are also now working, there is a, if you may have heard that there was a government scheme related to institutes of eminence. So we are also now, the government is supporting the institutes of higher learning towards improving their national and international rankings. We have also started our new national institutional ranking framework, NIRF. So we are trying to motivate our institutes to come up higher in the international rankings as well, like for example QS ranking. So normally students go abroad because their rankings of the institutes are higher. Then they expect that they will be able to work with the best in the world. But now, as far as I know, I am very happy to share with you on this platform that IIT Roorkee is one among the, not one among the best, is the best in the country in terms of citations per faculty. It is
Okay.
on our front landing page also. So we have, you can say, one of the best publication database available at IIT Roorkee, because our articles all across the IITs, we are number one in
Great.
terms of citations per faculty. So similarly, we have to work on other domains also and come up with higher rankings, so that students who are going out, maybe first is for financial, you can say, reasons, we can plug that outflow by providing them good incentives and fellowship here. Second is, if they are going for rankings, we also try to improve our rankings. And third, they may be going outside because they get better facilities, better equipment. So I think IITs, at least I am associated with IIT system for the last 22 years. 1998 I went to IIT Delhi as a student, and now right now it is 2020. So in 22 years of my experience at IIT, I see that we are second to none in terms of facilities. So we if we have the best brains, we have the best facilities, then only
Yes.
we have been able to create the publications or publish well-renowned international journals, and people are reading our work that we are doing. So therefore, the facilities are good, the remuneration or fellowship is better, the rankings of the institutes are good. I think we will be able to arrest the brain drain in a way. So from the now the answer gives perspective from the institutes or the government side also, that we have to work on developing our facilities further. We have to bring in the best faculty members into the IIT system, and we have to suitably remunerate the candidates who want to do PhD. So if we are able to focus, I think, this is my thought. Maybe this may not be the generalized thought, but what I believe is that if we are able to satisfy the aims and aspirations of the students, and
Yes.
we are able to align them with our national aspirations and national goals, I think the synergy can be created, and we will be able to retain the best people within the country. And I know many of our students, at least at IIT Roorkee, I have seen, who are now working either in IIT Roorkee or in some other IITs for their masters and PhD programs. So the good results we have started to see, and in future I think we will be even better off.
Great. Great. Professor Inderdeep, I have come to an end of this wonderful session, sir, and I am really thankful to you for providing so explained and so simple terms, this answers to all the queries. And I'm totally satisfied at the end of the session, sir, with all the answers. And I'm really thankful to you for this, sir. And wish you good luck and thanks a lot once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijender. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.